I swear it was supposed to be a joke. That's how every disaster in my life seems to begin, with laughter. My sister Zara was filming one of her silly social media challenges in our room, the ring light glowing like an interrogation lamp, clothes scattered across her bed like a colorful explosion. She looked at me with that mischievous smile and said, "You always say girls have it easy with fashion. Prove it. Wear one of my outfits for a day." I laughed so hard I almost dropped my phone. Me. In her clothes? Impossible. I was the confident older brother, the sports guy, the one who teased her about taking 2 hours to get ready. But the camera was already recording, and my ego was louder than my common sense. "Fine," I said. "Pick the outfit." That was the moment everything shifted, though I didn't know it yet. She chose something simple at first: high-waisted jeans, a soft pastel sweater, sneakers. "Nothing crazy," she promised, still giggling. I rolled my eyes and locked myself in the bathroom to change, expecting to feel ridiculous. But when I pulled the sweater over my head and looked in the mirror, something unexpected happened. I didn't laugh. I didn't feel stupid. I just stared. The fabric felt different, softer than anything in my closet. The jeans fit snugly in a way that made me hyper-aware of my posture. I adjusted my hair awkwardly and stepped out, bracing for mockery. Zara froze for a second, then burst out laughing, but not in a cruel way. "Wait, why does this actually look good?" she said, circling me like a fashion critic. That should have been the end of it. We filmed a few clips, joked around, and I was supposed to change back. But she wasn't done. "Makeup," she announced, holding up a small brush like a weapon. I protested. A little too strongly, maybe. She narrowed her eyes. "You're scared." That word hit harder than I expected. I wasn't scared. At least, that's what I told myself. So I sat down. As she worked, my heart pounded louder than the music playing in the background. I kept telling myself it was just for fun, just a challenge. But when she handed me the mirror, the laughter in the room slowly faded. I didn't recognize myself. Not because I looked ridiculous. Because I didn't. There was something unsettling about how natural it seemed. The softened edges of my face, the subtle gloss on my lips, the way my eyes looked, different. Vulnerable. Honest. Zara stopped smiling. "Why do you look like you've done this before?" she asked casually. I forced a laugh, but my throat felt tight. I hadn't. Not exactly. But there had always been moments, small, secret ones, when I'd wondered what it would feel like. When I'd noticed how confidently she carried herself in outfits I would never dare to try. I buried those thoughts years ago. Boys don't think like that. Boys don't feel like that. Or at least that's what I was told. The challenge escalated when her best friend unexpectedly showed up at our house. I panicked. "I'm changing," I whispered urgently. Zara grabbed my arm. Too late. The doorbell rang. My heart was beating so hard I thought it would show through the sweater. I stood there, frozen, as her friend walked in and saw me. There was a split second of silence that felt like an eternity. Then she blinked and said, "Wait, that's your brother." They both started laughing again, but not cruelly. It was playful, surprised, and weirdly, impressed. Instead of humiliation, I felt something stranger. Relief. The afternoon turned into a full experiment. They insisted I walk around the house like that. They filmed transitions, made me practice confidence walks, even changed my hairstyle slightly. Every step felt like I was crossing some invisible line I had drawn around myself years ago. I kept waiting for the shame to hit. For the disgust. For that inner voice to scream that I was doing something wrong. But it didn't. Instead, there was this quiet whisper asking, "Why does this feel right?" When my phone buzzed with a message from my friend asking if I was coming to basketball practice, reality crashed back in. I looked at myself in the mirror one more time before wiping off the makeup. For a split second, I hesitated. I didn't want to erase it. That scared me more than anything else that day. I scrubbed my face quickly, changed back into my usual clothes, and walked out pretending nothing had shifted inside me. But something had. That night, lying in bed, I couldn't sleep. I replayed every second in my mind, the way the sweater felt, the way I stood a little straighter, the way I didn't feel like I was pretending. The challenge was supposed to be funny, harmless. Instead, it cracked open a door I had kept locked my entire life. And I didn't know whether to slam it shut, or slowly step through it. I thought it was over. I thought I could forget it. I had no idea that the real gone wrong part hadn't even started yet. The next morning, I tried to act normal. Too normal. I slipped into my usual jeans and hoodie, hoping that the awkward thrill of yesterday would fade into a silly memory. But it didn't. Every glance in the mirror felt different, like I was seeing a shadow of the person I had glimpsed for the first time. Breakfast was quiet, my sister humming as usual, and I smiled stiffly, hiding the storm brewing inside me. I told myself it was nothing. Just a game. Just an experiment. But inside, I couldn't stop thinking about the way my posture had changed, the confidence that had crept into my shoulders while wearing her clothes. By mid-morning, my phone buzzed. It was Zara. "Ready for round 2, she texted. I froze. Round 2. I had thought it was over. "I'm busy," I typed back, lying without hesitation. But deep down, I knew I wasn't really busy. I was terrified. And part of me, curious. By the time she arrived at my room, I had convinced myself to face it. Zara didn't even knock. She just barged in, holding a brand new outfit, something bold, something I never would have chosen myself, a flowing skirt, a fitted blouse, ankle boots that clicked against the floor. "I made this your challenge outfit," she said, eyes sparkling. There was no laughter in her voice this time. Something about the way she said it made my stomach knot. This wasn't about fun anymore. I could tell she was testing me. Or maybe testing herself. I hesitated, then looked at the outfit. My hands trembled slightly. I wanted to run. I wanted to say no. But instead, I took a deep breath and said, "Okay." That single word felt heavier than anything I had ever said. Changing into the outfit, I felt a nervous thrill, the same one from yesterday, but amplified. The skirt swished around my knees, softer than I expected, the blouse light against my chest. I stared at myself in the mirror and barely recognized the reflection. It wasn't the me I saw every day. It was someone else. Someone I hadn't allowed to exist before. Zara circled me slowly, her expression unreadable. "Not bad," she said finally. Her tone was casual, but the way her eyes lingered on me made my skin prickle. "You know," she added, "this could be fun." Fun. I wanted to argue. Wanted to escape. But a strange pull kept me rooted there. A mix of fear, thrill, and truth. The day passed in a blur. We filmed more challenge clips, laughing, joking, teasing, but something under the surface had shifted. I noticed small things, the way my hips moved differently, the way people glanced at me when I walked into the room, the subtle power of feeling seen in a way I had never experienced. My friends called later, asking if I wanted to hang out, and I panicked. How could I show up looking like me? Not me, exactly, but this other version. I realized I couldn't. I lied, again. That night, alone in my room, I sat with the outfit folded on my chair, running my fingers over the fabric. It was just clothing. Just a silly challenge. But my mind refused to let it stay that simple. I kept thinking about the confidence it gave me, the strange clarity I felt. I felt lighter. I felt real. And that terrified me more than anything. The next day at school was unbearable. Every time someone mentioned fashion, I flinched. Every glance in the hall made my stomach twist. And then Zara's text came through, "We need to take this to the next level. Trust me." My first instinct was to delete the message, to erase the possibility entirely. But another part of me I hadn't admitted existed, felt drawn to it. By the time I got home, I realized I was at a crossroads. I could stay the person I had always been, safe, predictable, hidden, or I could step further into this new world. And I knew, deep down, that stepping back wasn't an option anymore. Not if I wanted to know who I really was. Zara waited in the living room, arms crossed, a triumphant grin on her face. "Ready for the ultimate challenge?" she asked. I swallowed hard, nodding. The outfit she handed me this time was more daring, a fitted dress that hugged in places I didn't know I could be aware of, heels that I had only seen her wear, accessories that felt like armor. As I slipped into it, the familiar panic bubbled up, but it was mixed now with exhilaration. Looking in the mirror, I barely recognized the person staring back. Not because I looked like her, but because I looked like someone I had been too afraid to meet before. I had always hidden parts of myself, ignored feelings that didn't fit the mold. And now, standing there, I realized that I was meeting them head-on. Zara stepped closer, adjusting a bracelet on my wrist. "See," she whispered. "It's not about being her. It's about being you." And in that moment, I understood something I hadn't allowed myself to feel before. This wasn't a joke. This was discovery. By the end of the evening, I was exhausted, emotionally drained, but something had shifted irreversibly. I had stepped across a line, and even though I didn't know where it led, I couldn't turn back. I had glimpsed a version of myself I had been hiding, and the fear of losing it was stronger than the fear of shame. Little did I know, the real challenge, the one that would push me to my limits, was waiting just around the corner. Part 3. The following weekend, Zara insisted we go out. Public challenge, she called it, as if it were some kind of game. My stomach twisted into knots just hearing it. Public. People. Strangers. I could feel every ounce of resistance rising, but a small, daring part of me, one I hadn't known existed, thrilled at the thought. It wasn't bravado. It was curiosity. What would it feel like to walk through the world in this other skin? Zara picked out a completely new look, a chic off-shoulder blouse, a pleated skirt that swayed with every step, and heels that clicked like tiny warnings on the pavement. She handed me the outfit and said, "No backing out this time." I stared at her, panic bubbling to the surface. "I can't," I whispered, but she shook her head firmly. "Yes, you can. You just don't know it yet." I changed in the bedroom, hands trembling as I adjusted the outfit. The mirror reflected someone unfamiliar, yet undeniably me. It was almost painful how natural it felt. My heart pounded, adrenaline surging as I imagined stepping outside. My reflection seemed to smirk at me, challenging me to take that step, daring me to see if I could own it. When we walked out, the first few steps were terrifying. The heels wobbled under me, the skirt felt foreign, and every eye that flicked toward me felt like a judgment I wasn't ready to face. But as we walked further, something shifted. The panic that had clenched my stomach loosened slightly. People glanced, yes, but no one laughed. No one sneered. And somewhere in that moment, I realized that the world didn't explode because I existed differently for a few hours. We went to a cafe nearby, and I felt every heartbeat as we waited in line. Zara kept teasing me, pushing me just enough to keep me alert. "Confidence, bro," she whispered. I forced a small smile, trying to match the poise she seemed to radiate naturally. A stranger complimented my outfit, a casual, passing remark, and for the first time, I felt a spark of validation that had nothing to do with joking or challenges. Just acknowledgement. Someone seeing me, even partially, and accepting it. The rest of the afternoon became a whirlwind of emotions. People looked, some curious, some impressed. My own reflection in shop windows shocked me every time I passed. There was a thrill I hadn't known existed in wearing clothes that didn't belong to the stereotype I had always inhabited. And with every step, the tension inside me began to ease, replaced by a strange combination of fear, joy, and liberation. When we returned home, I was exhausted but exhilarated. The challenge had gone beyond a game. It had become a mirror to parts of myself I had ignored. Zara didn't say much, just smiled knowingly. "You did well," she said. "Better than you think." I laughed nervously, unsure whether it was pride or relief. But the real revelation came that night. Alone in my room, I stared at the outfit folded neatly on my chair. I felt a pang of longing. I didn't want to wear it just for a joke anymore. I wanted to wear it to feel right. And the truth hit me hard. I couldn't go back to pretending I was unaffected, pretending I was just playing along. Something inside me had changed irreversibly. Over the next few days, the secret gnawed at me. I found myself experimenting when no one was around. small things at first, a different hairstyle, a scarf thrown casually over my shoulder, experimenting with clothes I had never considered. Each time, the mirror reflected a version of me that felt alive in a way I hadn't known existed. And each time, the fear was there too, the fear of being seen, the fear of ridicule, the fear of crossing boundaries I had never crossed before. Then came the moment that shook everything. I had stayed home one afternoon, experimenting quietly in my room, when my mother unexpectedly walked in. She froze, looking at me as I adjusted a blouse I had borrowed from Zara. I panicked. Words stuck in my throat. I expected laughter, scolding, shock, anything but what happened next. She didn't say a word at first. She just studied me, her eyes soft, almost curious. And then, gently, almost whispering, she said, "You're exploring yourself, aren't you?" My heart skipped. No one had said that, not in judgment, not in confusion. Just recognition. I couldn't speak. I wanted to, but the words got caught. And for the first time, I realized that part of me I had buried, curiosity, self-discovery, identity, wasn't shameful. It was human. That night, I lay awake, thinking about what had happened. The challenge, which began as a joke, had become a turning point. It had shown me parts of myself I hadn't dared to acknowledge. Fear, yes, but also freedom. And slowly, I began to accept a truth I had long resisted. Maybe the world wouldn't fall apart if I explored this side of me. Maybe, just maybe, I could be both myself and something I hadn't allowed myself to become. Little did I know, the biggest challenge, the one that would push my courage, my identity, and my understanding of myself to the edge, was about to arrive. And this time, it wouldn't be just a private experiment. The whole world, or at least the people I knew, would be involved. It started with a text from Zara early one morning. "Big day. Don't chicken out." My stomach dropped before I even read the rest. She had arranged something she called the Ultimate Outfit Challenge. I didn't know what that meant exactly, but the weight of those words pressed on me. My mind raced with every possible scenario: embarrassment, exposure, even outright humiliation, but underneath it all, a flicker of excitement sparked. I couldn't explain why, but part of me wanted to see how far I could go. When she arrived, she was holding what looked like a small suitcase. "All yours," she said, dumping it on my bed. I lifted the lid and froze. Inside were outfits, shoes, accessories, enough to fill a boutique. Every piece was more daring, more stylish, more distinct than anything I'd worn before. The moment I saw them, panic and thrill collided in my chest. Zara grinned. "Pick one. Any one. Today, you own it." I hesitated. My hands hovered over the fabric, over sequins and silk, over pieces I never imagined wearing. And then something strange happened. I felt calm, focused. I reached for a soft pastel dress, elegant yet understated. Maybe it was because it was familiar enough not to terrify me completely, or maybe it was because I'd grown braver in the days since the first challenge. Either way, I knew one thing: I wanted to see this through. The moment I stepped into it, my reflection startled me. The person staring back was both me and not me. The lines of the dress emphasized parts of my body I'd never been conscious of. My posture shifted almost instinctively. My face, framed by a hairstyle I'd never dared, looked alive. I didn't feel like I was pretending anymore. I felt authentic. Vulnerable, yes, but real. Zara took my hand. "We're going out," she said, eyes shining. "Public. Big time. Social experiment. Confidence challenge. Call it whatever you want. But you're going to learn something today." I swallowed hard. My heart thudded painfully in my chest, but I nodded. Somehow, despite my fear, I trusted her. The drive to the city was a blur. Every mirror in the car reflected someone I was only beginning to know. When we arrived, the streets were crowded. People bustled past, oblivious or too absorbed in their own worlds. I stepped out, my heels clicking on the sidewalk, Zara walking beside me with that smug, knowing grin. I felt exposed. Every eye that glanced in my direction sent a shock of adrenaline through me. And yet, a strange, liberating calm settled over me. This was real. I was real. We wandered into a small park, where Zara had set up a mini challenge zone with a few friends she'd secretly recruited. Cameras, mirrors, phones, she had documented everything. My stomach churned, but I reminded myself, this wasn't a joke anymore. It was a test. A personal experiment. And as I walked, practiced my poses, smiled at people passing by, I began to realize something profound. The fear I had carried for years, the fear of being seen, judged, or misunderstood, was fading. I was learning that courage wasn't the absence of fear, it was moving forward despite it. Hours passed like minutes. People reacted in ways I hadn't expected. Curiosity, admiration, casual smiles. No one mocked. No one sneered. Each interaction built a strange, exhilarating confidence inside me. I felt visible, but safe. Powerful, but unpretentious. And more than anything, I felt accepted. By myself first, then by those around me. When the day ended, Zara and I returned home, exhausted but buzzing. I collapsed on my bed, the dress folded neatly beside me. I thought about every glance, every step, every heartbeat. The challenge had gone far beyond what I expected. It had started as a joke, a simple dare between siblings. But it had transformed me. I had faced fear, discovered parts of myself I had ignored, and realized that identity wasn't fixed. It was fluid, evolving, and deeply personal. That night, as I lay awake, I understood something crucial. The outfit challenge hadn't gone wrong at all. It had gone exactly right. It had taught me courage, vulnerability, self-acceptance, and it had opened a door I could never close again. The reflection in my mirror now smiled at me with recognition and pride. I was still me. Only now, I was braver, bolder, and more honest than ever before. From that day forward, clothes became more than fabric. They became a way to explore, to express, to discover. And even though I still laughed about how it all started, Zara's silly challenge, the accidental makeup, the first awkward steps in heels, I knew the truth. That day, I had transformed. Not just on the outside, but inside. And for the first time, I felt fully, completely, free. The joke was over. The discovery had begun. The challenge was gone wrong, yes, but in the most beautiful, unexpected way possible.